Bioshock Infinite left me speechless upon beating the game, and this is a very unique first person shooter that just left me different. I'm honestly not 100% sure where to start today's review, as I've never really tackled a game like Bioshock Infinite, but I guess I'll start with what makes this game stand out above all else, and that is its story. Assuming I correctly followed the story, in an alternate history, you play as a guy named Booker DeWitt, a bit of a scoundrel who's in debt to some unnamed bad people, and he is desperate. Note here, I don't recall if it was ever stated why he's in debt, but one guy on the internet said gambling. But anyways, these people offered him a chance to bail out. Bring us the girl, wipe away the debt, being their exact words. Booker doesn't seem to know a whole lot about his assignment other than he's supposed to go to a lighthouse in search of a mysterious girl, and he gets stuck in a machine and launched to the floating city of Columbia, and he eventually finds her locked in a tower at the hands of Zachary Comstock, who seems to be the main villain of the game. This girl, named Elizabeth, is very cute, and you learn that she has special powers to open something called tears, or portals to other dimensions pretty much, and you later learn that Comstock planned to make her his successor as leader of the city of Columbia, and I should note that this guy is a bit of a religious nut, calling himself the prophet and saying he was sent from God. But behind the scenes, well, he's kind of the main villain of the game. Anyways, Booker and Elizabeth proceed to attempt to escape the city and find themselves on a reality-altering, dimension-shifting journey that honestly got a little bit hard to follow at times, and I want to keep spoilers to a minimum, but let's just say the story takes a lot of unexpected turns, and the ending will likely leave you shocked or at least somewhat surprised. Now, on to gameplay. This isn't your standard first-person shooter, and I honestly don't think I've ever seen a game quite like it, although We Happy Few seems to have gotten some inspiration from the atmosphere of this game. But putting that aside, there's a bit to discuss, so I'll break things up into 6 groups: gunplay, melee combat, powers, Elizabeth, the health system, and enemy variety. Gunplay is about what you would expect from a first-person shooter. You point at stuff and shoot, although I must say this title has some unique weapons, like the shotgun or the hailfire, but sadly, you can only hold 2 weapons at once. But you can collect ammo for any weapon, even if you're not holding it, and you can purchase ammo and gun upgrades at vending machines scattered around the game, and I'd probably say the carbine was my favorite weapon, dealing heavy damage, being effective at close and long-range combat, and having low recoil. And I should note that Bioshock Infinite has a auto lock-on system, so that when you aim close to an enemy, your sights will snap right to them. B, I played on normal difficulty. And C, you press the right joystick to aim, something that took me a bit of getting used to, and you can't change the controls on Xbox. Okay, next up is melee attacks. Your melee weapon is a magnetic hook thingy, which is decent at the start of the game, but quickly becomes useless as you progress in the game and you press Y to melee. Now, it does have one cool/gruesome feature, in that if an enemy is low enough on health, you can use the hook for an execution, which is usually snapping their neck, popping their head off, or driving the hook into their chest and spinning the blades, although there isn't a lot of blood for these gruesome executions. And finally, the hook is used for riding rails around the city. Okay, time for powers. It wouldn't be a Bioshock game without them. Bioshock Infinite has a total of 8 powers, which you can use in combat, like the Bucking Bronco, which lets you send enemies into the air, leaving them stunned for several seconds, or the Electric Blast, which is, well, a blast of electricity, or, my personal favorite, a Murder of Crows, which is where you send a swarm of crows to attack your enemies, and you can upgrade it to increase their attack time or make it so that the corpse of any enemy killed by the crows becomes a trap for fresh enemies, which will trigger more crows to attack whoever disturbed them. And I should note that every power has a secondary attack, like being able to plant traps with the electric blast, and the powers themselves drain from your salt meter, and you refill your salt meter by drinking vials of salt or finding other consumables that refill your salts, like soda, because that makes sense, and power upgrades can be purchased at vending machines scattered around Columbia. Okay, on to discussing Elizabeth, who's both a very interesting character and a very unique mechanic. I think I'll start by saying I don't think I can recall any other game where you have a follower slash companion who aids you in combat without actually fighting. She helps you by tagging special enemies, like Patriots, aka robots with a minigun. She'll toss you things when you need aid, like medkits or ammo. She revives you when you die, and most notably, she can open tears to aid in fighting, which can be anything from spawning in weapons and health kits to summoning friendly robots and traps. She is very helpful. And outside of combat, she'll sometimes toss you money, point out items for you to pick up, and she can pick locks, assuming you have the lock picks, with an achievement for instructing her to pick 30 locks. And I was beyond grateful when the game gave me a pop-up message that I didn't have to protect Elizabeth in combat, as I feared this would turn into another Amy, aka a giant escort mission. But nope, Elizabeth is protected by the power of plot armor, and therefore cannot be harmed in combat. On to our next topic, the health system. You have a health and armor bar, both of which can be upgraded by finding upgrade vials scattered around the game, which give you a choice of improving your health, armor, or salts bar. I personally spent almost all of the vials I found on upgrading my armor, as armor will regenerate by itself, but health will not, and armor takes 100% of damage until it breaks, so it just made the most sense to me to max out my armor first, as your health can only be refilled by eating foods or finding med kits, and I should note that, unlike Bioshock 1, you can't carry medkits to patch yourself up on the go. Alrighty, my next main topic of gameplay is discussing enemy variety, and I'd say Bioshock Infinite has a fair amount of foes on its roster. You start off with just basic foot soldiers, who aren't too much of a threat, but later get armored soldiers who can absorb more damage. You also have the aforementioned Patriots, then you have automated turrets and engineers to add to the game's hostile robots. And there are also special enemies, like the Crow enemy, who teleports around and attacks you with crows, and I'd say that largely sums up the combat. As far as the environment goes, I expected something more like Bioshock 1, with a creepy horror atmosphere, but Bioshock Infinite has its own unique alternative history feel that I appreciate. And again, I think We Happy Few took some influence from this game. Graphics-wise, the game looks great for the time, and performance-wise, ran pretty well. Other than one time my navigator arrow thing didn't want to work, and the compass, arrow, whatever you want to call it, was a mixed bag for me. You press up on the D-pad to be shown where you're supposed to go, but it disappears after like 1 second, and it could get a little irritating to have to keep pressing that same button over and over again. So overall, Bioshock Infinite is a very unique FPS with fun combat and a very interesting story that left me without words at first, and I highly suggest this game to any fan of first-person shooters, and I give this title a 9.4 out of 10 by my grade scale. Like I said a couple times, this game is pretty unique, so it's not easy to suggest any similar games, but maybe check out Time Shift or We Happy Few if you liked Bioshock Infinite. And that is all from me for today, folks. For anyone new here to my channel, I mostly play, review, and discuss zombie and horror games, with sometimes other topics like today. Although to be fair, I expected this game to be more of a horror shooter like the first game, but I still had fun. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope someone enjoyed my video. Always remember that God loves you all very much. Hope everyone has a blessed day. Peace.